call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4. Constitute the quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Director Paul Daniels from the Covenant Church in Colleyville, Texas. Thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Thank you. If we will all bow our heads for a time of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you on behalf of all those gathered here today. Thank you for always being present. We thank you for blessing us so much, for giving us life and purpose, for giving us relationships, both personal and professional, who make us better people in order to fulfill our callings. Thank you for the work you've set before us that is useful and honorable. And we ultimately thank you for your love for us, for it is boundless and gracious. And I pray for Tarrant County, for its leadership and staff. Pray for Judge Whitley, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Allen, Commissioner Fix here today, for the citizens of this community, for the staff of this community, and all those assembled today, God. We pray for your wisdom and direction in the decisions that is to be made today, discussions that should be had. We pray, Lord, that your hand would be upon this meeting, that it will be productive and effective, that you would be glorified in the outcome, that we would have confidence in what is good, and ultimately that we will all have peace and joy in our personal lives. We pray, Lord, for the assurance of what would please you here today, and ultimately we thank you for your presence here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the court. Just one notification really, as it's not related to today's agenda. Next Monday, which is the 18th, we're going to have a special call meeting of the Commissioners Court. It'll be here at 10 o'clock in the morning for the sole purpose of canvassing the vote of the last election. It's a requirement that we have that canvassing in a certain time period, and so the 18th at 10 o'clock in the morning we will be hosting that. Second of all, we have an item that we talked about the other day, and this is for future agenda items potentially. And if we send out some additional information on the JPS bond package, I think that RFP is pretty close. I think we sent out 3 pages where we had some minor changes. If you have any comments individually that you would like to make on that, if you'll let me know, we're getting very close to releasing that. I don't know if that's something we want to bring back to the court as a whole. I have not had any other comments from the court members. Those changes were made through the planning committee of the hospital district this last time. I do want to point out, though, that it's a very comprehensive RFP. And we have worked diligently with the hospital district in putting that together. And it would be somewhat remiss of me not to mention that two of the county people put in a lot of time on it. I specifically want to recognize David Phillips, our facilities director. David put in a lot of hours. His fingerprints are all over that RFP, and he brought it from a good RFP to a great RFP, I believe. Also, Megan South out of our office helped with that and had input in our office, a lot of other people, but Megan was the lead from our office, and she did an excellent job also.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I would like to suggest that the RFP be brought back to this court for approval That is so we can establish a pattern of how we want to do business related to this bond issue going forward. This is an important item, and I think that we should be heard. We should be on record as having adopted it.
I see no problem with that.
Okay, we will do that. Finally, members of the court, Ms. Nicholson, our county clerk, has an announcement that she'd like to make. And we could take this time for that announcement.
Good morning, Court. I just wanted to give you a quick update. Saturday was our first passport acceptance day. We were open 10 to 2. South Lake Commissioner Fickus did a great job. We processed 60 applications in that time. So Christy Rianga, who is the manager of this and our passports, Robin and our arterial Christy Patty, it was very successful. We had a line on our Facebook page. You'll see people wrapping all the way around. We didn't want to over-promote because we didn't want to have a big crowd, but Commissioner Fickus, you made it happen. We didn't turn anybody away. So we appreciate the State Department giving us an opportunity and asking us to do that. Our next one's going to be in early March or February, and we haven't decided, but I'm assuming the second highest is going to be in your shop, so we're going to go there.
We would welcome you.
So I appreciate the employees who gave their Saturday up and worked, and of course we paid them, but it is their Saturday. So thank you for your support on that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. With that, court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 5th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a couple of proclamations. First, we have Tarrant County Adoption Day, and I believe Shauna Smith.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Come on down. Let me read this into the record. Whereas there are thousands of Texas children who have been abused or neglected or abandoned by their natural birth parents, and more than 1,220 of these children are in Tarrant County. And whereas many of these children's only hope for a full and productive life are to be accepted by loving homes, and whereas adoption allows children to be reared in a safe, loving, and nurturing environment, as adoptive parents take on the role of guiding, teaching, nurturing, and loving children in order to provide them the best possible chance for being productive citizens. And whereas we commend these families for the sacrifice they are willing to make to enhance the lives of these children, and whereas the children being adopted today by these loving and special families will have a new chance in life to fulfill their hopes and dreams, and whereas this is a special day to celebrate, and we send our best wishes to the children whose adoptions are made final today, and to the wonderful families who will give them unconditional love. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners' Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim November 15th as Tarrant County Adoption Day, in witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 12th day of November 2019, and I move its approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Judge, I like the phrase they used to use, establishing a forever home.
That's very true.
I just want to say thank you guys for providing me this opportunity to receive the proclamation today. And we are in the business of, making forever homes, and it's one of my favorite days of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, as yesterday was Veterans Day, today we celebrate Veterans Awareness Week, and I will read this into the record, and I know that we have Thomas Belton here from our Veteran Services. Tom, come on down. Whereas it is appropriate to salute those tens of thousands of men and women who have served and are serving in America's armed forces, and whereas it is recognized that during the past century, hundreds of thousands of Americans have given their lives while serving in the armed forces, and whereas many Tarrant County employees are among the brave men and women who have or are serving in our armed forces, and whereas each November, Veterans Day is set aside as a time to honor those men and women who have so ably served in the armed forces of the United States, and whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who have served and are serving in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and the way of life enjoyed by the people of the United States, and whereas while we can never hope to fully repay these courageous men and women for their distinguished service to our nation, we can and must show our appreciation for their sacrifice. And whereas Veterans Day is observed on November the 11th, regardless of what day of the week on which it falls, for preserving the historical significance of the date and the focus the attention on the important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor Americans' veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize the week of November 11th through 15th, 2019, as Veterans Awareness Week, and in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 12th day of November 2019, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And what I want to do now is I want to ask each of the, I'll go around and we'll ask each one of the branches, if you're a veteran from that particular branch, would you please stand? We'll start off with the Air Force. Y'all can stay standing. We're going to get all of you at the end anyway. For the Navy. For the Army. For the Coast Guard. And finally, the Marines. I'll give you this, and then I will ask you to make any comment. Wait a minute. We're gonna get a picture. I should have known it was gonna be pretty flashy.
Hey, Judge. Thank you for this day, Judge Willie, Commissioners. It is an amazing time to be a veteran in Tarrant County. So many great things are happening. We're going to have a brand new veteran state home built here. We're going to have the National Medal of Honor Museum built here in Arlington. It is a great time to be a veteran in Tarrant County, and I'll say that again. Thank you for your unwavering support and dedication to the veterans and the veterans of Tarrant County. Thank you.
And also, Liberty House has some, which is for the veterans, has some needs, and if you have an opportunity, this is their kind of wish list for Veterans Day. Look at this. We will have it, I believe, we're going to put it up on a link on our website. And this is just some of the things that you might be able to drop off for, again, for our veterans. And I will, again, appreciate that very much. And again, you can get that off my website. Thank y'all.
Your Honor, I'd just like to point out that the veterans who are here this morning came from throughout county departments, including our various road crews. So thank you all for your service.
Okay, next, Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, I have a congratulatory resolution that I want to enter into the record. We be presenting it this afternoon. So it's to Bedford Mayor Jim Griffin, who is leaving office today. And I will be presenting that later on this afternoon. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have a resolution.
I do. It is in honor of the 100th anniversary of the Mount Olive Baptist Church of Fort Worth. It was presented at their celebratory banquet this past Friday night, and I move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And we have presentations for our 16th annual Tarrant County Golf Tournament. Doug Black, I believe, is going to come forward and make the presentation.
Morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we had our 16th annual golf tournament at the City of Fort Worth Rockwood Park Golf Course on October 19th. Weather was the opposite of today. It was perfect. And we'd like to thank the course for hosting a great event and for being in great shape. We want to thank the credit union for volunteering and handling the registration table, the sign-ins, handling raffle tickets, and making sure everybody had a great day after the event. The committee included myself, Susan Sodak from HR, Travis Yarbrough from Budget and Risk, and then Craig Maxwell was our MC for the event. And I did not win. Craig did not win. I know you always ask.
Well, I thought that maybe Craig was going to win since you weren't, since he wasn't up here presenting anything.
I think he got tired of you asking him. So the
GK didn't win either, did he?
Oh, we will get to that.
He switched alliances, is what he did.
Oh, so he found some ringers to bring in with his
We'll get to that, right?
So, yes, we had 27 teams, over 100 players, and when we get that many teams, the pro shop will break the flight into half based on scores. The winning team for the championship flight is a 3-time winner from the CDA's office. 2 of them can't be here today because they're handling a trial, but we have Marcus Hanna, John Newbern, and then the other 2 are Allison Casera and Charles Bulwer.
So let me be sure I understand this. You split it into 2 flights this year.
Everybody plays, and then the pro shop looks at all the scores, and they figure out a halfway point.
Okay.
And then that determines the championship flight, and then the Hogan flight or the second flight.
Okay, so this team won.
This team won the whole thing. They got their name on the trophies. So they're the champions.
And so in the past, we've only had 1 flight.
No. We've had 2 flights every year except for one when we had 33 teams and we did 3 flights one year.
Oh, so we've always had 2 flights?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's the professional golfers and then there's the recreational golfers. Think about it that way.
What, and define professional?
What's that? The top half.
Is that like? I thought it was like the people that make the most money.
No, well, that's probably Sue because of the district attorney's office.
I don't think you want to go there.
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Well, come on down here and get your trophy. So is the reason y'all aren't in court today is because you play golf for a living?
Yes, sir, that's fair.
So they did break off the second flight again, and we had a scorecard tiebreaker. GK's team won the second flight. That's the 6th time his team has won it. So they are the champion recreational golfers.
In 16 years?
In 16 years, his team has won it 6 times.
You just got to put your money on it.
What was the tiebreaker? Did he get to decide what the tiebreaker was?
Well, because there was 27 teams, there was a breaking point at 14. So there was 14 teams in the first flight, 13 teams in the second flight. And then there was a scorecard playoff, and GK's team won the scorecard playoff.
But you don't get a trophy.
No, but we get a round of free golf.
Congratulations.
I'd rather have the round
Who
of
was
free
on
golf.
your team? Who helped you win this thing?
Well, okay, so it was Jim Duff, Mark Mendez, and Paul Wood.
These are folks who they're retired. They all play golf all the time.
Some of them just look like they're retired.
Congratulations. Thank y'all very much. You have an announcement?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. So I wanted to share with you all 3 events that we have coming up in Precinct 2. The first of which is tomorrow, Wednesday, November 13th, from 10 to 12 noon. We will have an Alzheimer's Community Forum. The second is this Saturday, November 16th. We will have our Fall Open House and Toiletry Drive. We are partnering with TCC Southeast Campus to gather toiletry items for their food pantry that serves their students, staff, and faculty. And next Friday, November 22nd, we will have our United Way fundraising luncheon, Taco Bell party. We'll have great food, fun, and prizes, and of course, auction and raffle prizes. And that is from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. So we welcome members of the community and those in the audience to come to 1 or 2 or all 3 of those events to support what we have going on in the community. Thank you.
Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval. of the
Second.
consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McMillan is going to do item number 1 under our section.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning.
We have before you today a request to approve the issuance of Series 2019 Hospital Revenue Funding Bonds in one or more series by the Tarrant County, issued by the Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corporation for Baylor Scott & White Holdings in an amount not to exceed $458,915,000. The Board of Directors of the Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corporation approved the issuance of these bonds at the end of October, and they will be used to refund all or a portion of already issued Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Financing Corporation bonds, which will provide a substantial savings to Baylor Scott & White Holdings. All the notices have been provided, and just a reminder that these are bonds that are issued by the Finance Corporation. They are not a liability of the commissioners or the county, and this approval for the issuance is for tax-exempt purposes only.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Schaffner is going to be doing item number 2.
So you're a winner now. You don't feel like you could get up and give any of these things in?
We are the champions.
We have several audience participations on this particular item, so make your presentation, and then I will call upon these folks to come and make any comments they wish to make.
Great. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Today we are seeking Commissioners Court approval of regulation of game room operations related to public health, safety, and welfare in Tarrant County. We have provided court with an updated set of regulations based on feedback that we received from the City of Arlington, working with our partners in Arlington, Fort Worth, the Sheriff's Office, as well as the Criminal District Attorney's Office over the past several months to get it to where these regulations are today, working with those various partners. We have, first off, wanted to make sure that everyone had the chance to review those changes and that the court is okay with making those. I believe there were six changes that we made. So that's item 1 for us to discuss through today.
I showed 7 changes.
7 then. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay. The next item we need to work through this morning is the effective date. We had been looking at numerous options for this, and staff is recommending an effective date for the regulations of April the 1st, 2020.
I see nobody.
Good with that.
April 1st, 2020, which will make the distance exemption or the distance grandfathering exemption 15 days afterwards, which would be April 15th, 2020, which we will, I believe that's been updated in the copy of the regulations you all have. We have also been working with the Sheriff's Office and wanted to say how much we appreciate working with them on staffing issues, and we will be continuing to work with them on that issue as we go throughout implementation in the next few months. And Judge, and there are no questions, that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to call, unless y'all have any questions.
I'll wait till after the comment.
Okay.
We just want to comment. We'd received several comments from the city of Arlington, and what we have tried to do, we have tried to work through those, and there are some that those suggestions we have agreed to, and we've changed those, and y'all were provided that information. There are some, though, that we're in disagreement with, so I just want to lay that on the table.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
First is Brandon Bennett. What I'm going to ask that you do is please come forward, restate your name and your address. 3 minutes is the time limit on that.
Thank you, Judge Whitley. Commissioners, I'm Brandon Bennett. I am the Director of Environmental Health and Codes for the City of Fort Worth, Texas, 800 Missouri Avenue, Fort Worth. And I'm here in support of your ordinance and moving forward on this. I have been in local government for 37 years now, a long time. I've worn many hats. I will tell you that over time, I think back to my early public safety career, that the discussion of gambling was much of a moral discussion, and that in the early 2000s into the recession, that changed drastically with online gaming and electronics becoming more affordable, and what used to be maybe shady places on the edge of a city or in a rural part of the county became your local five and dime gas or market on a street corner, and the people that it attracted were those that were most at risk for drug abuse, those that had criminal history, prostitution, and things like that. It's not unusual in the city of Fort Worth that we will go in on a gaming complaint and find mattresses in the back for prostitution, that we will see that there will be petty crime in a neighborhood. And these are neighborhoods that are most at risk. These are folks that either don't have insurance to replace things that are stolen as a result of people that frequent these places, or people that underreport crime. They just simply give up after asking for relief from the city. We see this as a opportunity to implement a ounce of cure, for us to pay attention, for the game room people to know that we're paying attention, because we know that the pound of cure in the end is very expensive to local government and to the community. So I appreciate your time this morning and speak in support of this. Thank you.
Just parenthetically, 800 Missouri Avenue would be the Hazel Harvey Peace Center for Neighborhoods.
It is. And I consider that my neighborhood too.
Every time I get a chance to speak Mrs. Peace's name, I take that opportunity.
Absolutely. Was an awesome woman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Edward Brown, or Edwan Brown.
Your Honor, I believe that is not on this particular item.
Okay, I see that now that you say that. I apologize. Next is Jennifer Weichman.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Wickman. I'm an Assistant City Manager with the City of Arlington, and I appreciate your time today. Will that work? Yes. Okay, thank you. So we appreciate you all hearing us on this. As staff has mentioned before, they've been very helpful in fielding our questions and concerns and taking our suggestions into account. We particularly want to thank staff in Judge Whitley's office and also in Commissioner Allen's office. Jay Jackson and Chandler Merritt have been helpful, in addition to Russell has been really patient with us, and we've appreciated his assistance. In no way is anything I'm going to say I would hope would be interpreted as being against this. We're certainly not against this at all. We have experienced this in Arlington and have worked actively to try to combat it. We understand how disruptive it can be to neighborhoods, so we're very concerned and can really feel the pain of the folks in Fort Worth and other areas of the county that are experiencing this problem. So last week we sent some suggestions to Mr. Schaffner, and several of them have been included. In particular, the ones that are very helpful to us are the specifying that the CO has to specify that game room is an approved use in that area as a primary use, and then also measuring from lot line to lot line. That's also very helpful. So I'd like to talk about three of our suggestions that weren't included, to perhaps so you all can consider them and just explain a little bit why we think that they're important to us. So the first is we would hope that there could be a paragraph included in the administration chapter that would note that Tarrant County would not issue game room permits in cities that do not have an interlocal agreement with the county. We believe this would mirror the way that Harris County has adopted and implemented this, and in our interpretation it would not interfere with Section 234 of the Local Government Code. And this would allow Arlington to continue to work with the effort that we've been doing, which is a look at the zoning and also very intense work by our public safety professionals to keep these down to a low level and shut them down as quickly as possible when they do come up. So the second section, the second change I would suggest is in section related to the distance restrictions. We appreciate the lot-to-lot measurement, which was great. This section is 39B1. But there is a definition of it being 1,500 feet from a residential neighborhood, and we understand that language comes from the statute, which is good to reflect that. However, there's no definition included there, and so we're left wondering is it just where people live? So that could be anything from multifamily zoning to single-family zoning to some of the areas where you might have commercial, where you might also have some apartment complexes with mixed use. We would interpret that to be anywhere where people live, but we're not certain that's what that interpretation would be. So we have suggested some ways to define that if that would be something that the court would want to do. Finally, the last issue I would mention is that there's an exemption in 313 that allows for an entity that has either food or beverages or is operating as a charitable bingo hall to have some certain exemptions, which include exemptions to the signage, transparent doors and windows, hours of operation, most concerningly distance requirements. And this to us really seems like the main areas that keep neighborhoods and other areas isolated, that keeps these in the specific area that you want them and has them operate in a way that's not going to interfere with neighboring uses. So we would like to consider maybe eliminating that. We know that was in the Harris County as they passed it, but we aren't really sure what sort of use that would have, what good exception that would have within. We can't think of a use that would work with that. So finally, I just wanted to say, just if you could consider the first request that we had to adopt this more like and use this more like Harris County does, which is if we don't have an interlocal that you wouldn't issue the permits in our area. But if that is not a possibility, then certainly the other changes would be greatly appreciated in particular. But we do appreciate the changes that have been already made. Those have been incredibly helpful. I'm happy to answer any questions. I also have an Assistant City Attorney, Galen Gatton, from Arlington with us, and he can help me with any questions that the court may have.
I guess one of the questions that I guess, Russell, first off, I would like for you to come back and address three issues that Jennifer referred to. And then, Chris, I think the district attorney's office also has some.
Yeah, I would like to thank everyone so far who has been involved in working to find some good ground here. Thank you, Jennifer, for bringing up the concerns of the city of Arlington last week. I had asked for Russell and staff to look at every single one of them to see where we could make amendments, and I know they've worked really hard to do that. So to that end, Russell, please continue.
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, just want to tell you how much we appreciate Jennifer and her team working with us on this issue. A lot of emails and paper back and forth, but we're nearing the final with these three items. The first one, regarding the do not have an ILA, that the county couldn't issue a permit, a game room permit in a city that doesn't have an ILA with the county. The structure of the game room regulations in Local Government Code 234 it's a bit awkward because it gives the county the regulatory authority, not the specific city. And so the county has the ability and the authority to issue permits within the entirety of the county. And so we view that particular request in that language as excluding a city wholesale from the regulations with no real rational basis. And so we're just concerned that it may not be something that we have full statutory authority to be able to do. And I don't know if the district attorney's office has anything to add or clarify on that, but that's general concept.
I'm reluctant to get into the actual legal advice, but what I will say is with explaining how the game room regulations interact with the code enforcement and with the land use stuff of the city of Arlington. I believe that the regulations and the land use stuff that the city of Arlington is doing should be able to marry just fine without having any additional problems. I believe, as Ms. Wildman stated when she was here, some of the changes that were implemented to the game room regulations was to make sure that the county would not be issuing a permit unless and until the particular potential game room has already received permission to operate within that particular municipality. So we're not circumventing anything that the cities are already doing. And so we have to wait until we actually get all of the documentation. And it was a discussion that we had before the first time we briefed on game rooms. I think that Commissioner Fitness wanted to make sure that we weren't circumventing these CO requirements. They have to have all of that stuff in place first and bring all of that stuff to the game room administrator here at the county before they get a permit. So we're not trying to trample on or change anything that the cities are doing. It's actually going to be on top of that. So I think that the interactions in effect will work with exactly what the city of Arlington is doing at this point.
It seems to me that the request that the city has made in this particular instance would be to opt out of having a state law enforced in their jurisdiction, which clearly to me cannot be done. State law applies to everyone. And it seems to me that the best way for the city of Arlington to go forward is to enter into an interlocal agreement with Tarrant County so that they then become the enforcement authority within their jurisdiction.
Correct. And then to make a clarifying point regarding the Harris County regulations, the Harris County regulations do not include language that would exclude the enforcement of the game room regulations in a city if they didn't have an ILA with the county. It's the opposite in the actual language from Harris County. We've patterned ours off of it to where a city, a municipality can pull down more or less our regulations to enforce them themselves through an ILA. And so we've maintained that structure and hoping to be able to work with our municipal partners to have them sign an ILA to then issue and enforce those permits within their municipalities.
So let me be sure I've got what I understand what you just said. In Harris County, if a city does not enter into an interlocal agreement, the county can still issue
Yes, sir.
A license, but only after the city has given them a permit in order to put something in that city.
You've got to be able to, with your game room application that you turn in for a game room permit, you have to have a valid CO, and we've actually, working with the City of Arlington, strengthened that language regarding the certificate of occupancy. But you've had to go through the entire process with the city to be able to more or less open your doors as a game room.
Regardless of whether there's an interlocal agreement or not, they've got to go through the work with the city.
Yes.
The interlocal agreement part of it, in effect, is saying that instead of our sheriff's office enforcing the permit and all of that,
yes,
that the city themselves will get to enforce all that, use their police force, and we don't give up the authority to issue the license. We just then give everything to the city as far as enforcement and everything along that line.
And permitting.
So they even the permit.
Yes, sir. They, the structure of these resolutions and how we contemplate the agreements to work with the municipalities is that if a municipality enters into an ILA with the county, now there is always opportunities on how we negotiate out the ILA, but the intent is for that municipality to take over the application and permitting process,
as well as the enforcement.
As well as the enforcement.
They serve as our agent.
Yes.
That's what it is.
They would be the permitting, if you will, permitting and enforcement arm of the county's regulatory authority within those municipalities.
And so in Harris County or in Houston, well, Harris County, if a city down there does not enter into the interlocal agreement, then again, Harris County would still, what they've said is they will issue a license, but only after they have gotten all of the information from the city and approval from the city for it to be in that particular location.
Correct. It is in conversations with the Harris County Attorney's Office, it is the Harris County Attorney's Office position that Harris County has the authority to issue permits anywhere within Harris County. Now, within the City of Houston, which does have an ILA with Harris County, the city is the permitting agency. But anywhere else, there may be a little bit of difference within the practice of how permits may or may not be issued based on whatnot, but as far as the legal authority of Harris County, according to their attorney's office, is that they can do so.
Okay.
So, and then to number 2, regarding the distance, distance restrictions, neighborhoods versus structure. We wanted to continue when we reviewed the City of Arlington's language. The requested change was looking at residential neighborhood versus residential structure. In the statute, again, Local Government Code 234, it refers to residential neighborhood. And we wanted to continue that same language, as has been consistent in the 2 other counties that have adopted this regulatory structure. It's been residential neighborhood, not structure. And so that's why we decided to maintain that language in line with statutory language.
So in Harris County, and I guess in Houston, likewise, there is no zoning. So there would not be anything called residential neighborhood or residential zoning. So in that situation, could it be that within Harris County, instead of looking at one residence and saying, okay, this is a residence, therefore it is but it's not a residential neighborhood because there's everything else around it. Is there any reason or any theory behind why they did that?
Again, the language of residential neighborhood is the statutory language. It's what's found in statute.
So under that section, under this memo that you all provided on the section, excuse me, 3.9B1, where it has underlined a comprehensive plan adopted, was that?
Yeah, we've recommended we're including the comprehensive plan adopted within the structure.
And so help me understand, I think to the judge's question is, why couldn't we further define residential neighborhood?
It's a possible, I mean, if the court would like to further define residential neighborhood, it's something we can do.
What we simply did was utilize the language in the statute itself.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Could you hold on a second?
I said, what we simply did was copy the language that's in the statute. If we need to more clearly define that, we'll be more than happy to go ahead and do that. But we didn't want to deviate to any great extent from the actual wording in the statute.
Now, to follow up on
I don't have a personal preference in this item one way or the other, but it seems to me that to go beyond the language that is in the statute opens it up to a challenge in the courts. So we are safer to stick with the language that's in the statute that the legislature passed.
And maybe to add to this conversation a little bit more, I think the City of Arlington, one of the language additions that we've recommended to be included, further defines the measurement, how it's the distance is measured. And within a municipality, the City of Arlington wanted to have added to it the distance measurement described above shall be a straight line from the lot line of the proposed game room to the lot line of the uses listed in B, which is
the next section.
So that way it would be that adds. I believe, especially with comprehensive plan added into there, it gives more of it adds a note of additional concrete aspect to what we're discussing.
Now, did you include that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We included that. That was an excellent suggestion from their point. And then also the suggestion of how to deal with it differently within a county versus within the municipality. That was a nuance that we really appreciated them pointing out.
Okay.
Staff is comfortable with the residential neighborhood language for statutory reasons, as well as with the addition of that lot line language. I think it firms it up.
Okay, the last question.
And then the third question, as staff was developing these the regulations, again, we patterned it off of existing regulations that have gone through some litigation and some legal challenges, and so we were, in an attempt to be consistent across the board, we were including Chapter 3.1 or Section 3.13, which is an exemption for certain uses for bingo and for food and beverage service 51% above, or 51% of receipts or for food and beverage. So it is something that we can keep it in. We don't have to retain it if court decides not to retain it. It was to be consistent with existing regulatory structures across the state, but it is not something that we view as a key aspect to this document. And if for some reason issues do come up regarding it, we can bring it back to court and evaluate what to do with it.
I'd like to see us exclude it then, or remove that section.
Okay.
I'd support that.
Okay.
Sorry, can I get clarification from the court just to make sure on the definition of residential neighborhood? Are you okay with what we have so far, or do you want us to look into that any further?
I think we were fine with.
I think I got it.
think we were fine before you stood up, Chris.
Doing his job. Do we have other speakers?
We do, but I just thought as we were, especially this being one of the city folks, I want to give them a little bit more opportunity, time, and then I want to be able to respond to them. So as we go through this, we may kind of break that order.
Oh, no, of course.
You want to wait?
There were others from the city of Arlington.
I know we have a former city council person.
Catherine.
I guess the other question, though, do you have any other questions you want to ask at this time, or do you want to wait till?
I'd like to wait to hear the remaining speakers. Thank you. Thank you, Russell.
Catherine Wildman, come on down.
Back there hiding.
Morning.
Good morning, Judge,
Good morning,
Commissioners. It's
Catherine.
great to be here. Catherine Wildman, 1318 Viridian Park Lane in Arlington. And the reason I'm here this morning, I was a former city council member for District 4 in Arlington, predominantly the west side. And I was there from 2003 till this past May, 2019. So when I heard about the information that you all were getting on game rooms, it brought back a lot of memories. Because when we addressed it in Arlington, it affected not only the whole city, but, when you represent a district, it's you. And I got the calls, I got the issues, and I know that, we heard some of the same things that are going on in here. We heard them from Fort Worth. Those issues were all happening in Arlington. And at the peak, when this issue came up, we had 84 game rooms in Arlington. Most of them on the east side, but there were some in District 4, so that's how I really got involved. And I heard from a lot of people. But the problems were the same. It was illegal gambling. It was code enforcement issues. There was all of the electrical inspections were not complete. Some of the emergency doors, when the APD would go in, the doors were locked or shut, and that's a safety issue. So with all that being said, there was one issue, though, that I really would like to just kind of talk to you about that was in the district that I worked in, and it was at the corner of Bowen and Westwood. And there's a small shopping center there, had a neighborhood grocery store, a pet groomer, and a game room. And with all the chaos that was going on with the game room, the grocery went out of business. Now, I'm not saying that they went out of business because of the game room completely, but it was certainly an issue. And the neighborhood was really upset. So I started getting emails and phone calls and, stopped at the grocery store. What are you going to do about this? It's really upsetting. They felt threatened. They felt there was crime. At one point in Arlington, 1 year, they had 4 robberies. And some of the patrons, the people would come in with guns. Patrons were tied up. Some were assaulted with their weapons. At one instance, someone was shot in the shoulder. And so we knew it was escalating and it was time to do something. So the council, mayor and council addressed it with the city manager and his office. We worked with the zoning department. We worked with APD. We worked with the inspectors that were doing everything to say, what can we do? And we came to a solution through zoning and through working with APD and enforcement of our codes that we had. We came up with solutions, and we no longer accept gaming rooms in Arlington. And it's worked. The good news is it's worked. But it's been an ongoing issue in our city. I appreciate what you guys are doing and stepping up to help Fort Worth and the other cities that don't have any zoning or any way to stop it. And I understand, I think, Commissioner Brooks, it's big in your district, or that's what I've heard.
It's actually
and I'm looking
countywide.
at you. It's countywide. I know. Well, I'm feeling your pain, I'll tell you, because when the neighborhoods are threatened or feel threatened, that's the point that we need to step in and do something about it.
Sure.
And Commissioner Allen knows all about it, and she's been so helpful for us. But anyway, we worked on it, and that's the reason, I guess, why we're coming today. And I'm hearing a lot of new things as I walked in, and the judge was very helpful to give us new information that has come out, working with Harris County and with Russell and your commission. Anyway, we feel that we've got it. We've kind of solved ours, and we haven't had any more problems. And it's been low. It's been really low, and so that's the reason we're asking. You know that old saying. I look at the judge when I say this: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's kind of where we've come in Arlington, is that we feel like we have it under control, but we want to be a partner with the county. You guys have been so good to us and we work together so well. We are all into this, and we'll do whatever we can. I know the city will. I don't speak on the city's behalf anymore, but I speak as a citizen, and I remember when I sat up, and it's powerful. Citizens matter. That's why you're here. And so we were just asking that you would carve out, let Arlington continue to with the solution that we have for our citizens. So with that, I just have one more thing I want to say publicly while I'm here, because it was mentioned earlier too, how Arlington appreciates Judge and the council, the commissioners here, and how you have helped us just so much in Arlington with our last effort when we received that we are getting the the National Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington. You guys were really helpful and a big reason why we got that. And thank you to Commissioner Allen. That's a big deal, and it's not only good for Arlington, but it's good for Tarrant County. It's good for North Texas. And so thank you for all your help that you've given us, and I appreciate it all. So if I can answer any questions, I'm open. If anybody has any.
Any questions?
I just have a comment. Thank you, Catherine, for all of your years of service to Tarrant County. You and I go back to when you served on the JPS Board of Managers. That's been so many years ago, I don't even want to try to count it.
I looked at it the other day doing a resume, and I thought, I don't think so.
But
you were serving as a child.
Yeah, got it.
My comment is that this is not an authority that we sought.
I know.
This is something that was foisted upon us by the state legislature. Mm-hmm. And we are not seeking to preempt anything that the city of Arlington is doing. It is our belief that by entering into an interlocal agreement with Tarrant County and becoming that permitting and enforcement authority within the jurisdiction of the city of Arlington, that the city can then continue to do the things that it has done to be successful in regulating this noxious use. Yeah. That's where we're trying to get. We're not trying to hurt you.
I know you're not. You never have, and I didn't. And I'm not saying that. We just, of course, we have to look at everything, and our citizens are going, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen?" And me too. When I saw it, I thought, "What is this?" Well, I appreciate that because we're partners.
Sure
we support each other, and I know. I know that Commissioner Allen wouldn't let anything like that happen, and we appreciate you.
Well, and again, I want to thank you for being here to share your concerns. Thank you for your years of service. We're actually going to be inviting you back for a little something special soon. And then, of course, we did nominate you to the TAB board, so you can't go too far.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I hope that's considered a good thing.
Yeah, I do too. Anyway, well, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. And really, we just want to be a partner. That's what we're really here for. We just want to be a partner and to help in any way that we can. And I know that our staffs have worked together, and there again, it shows. We're together. Arlington and Tarrant County, Fort Worth, and North Richland Hills, we're all together. Thank you so much for your time.
Mayor, you've been so quiet, we forgot you were sitting back there.
You can't forget Oscar.
Chris Schaefer.
Good morning. My name is Chris Schaefer. I live at 3628 Kelvin Avenue in Wedgwood East. Thank you, Judge Whitley and Commissioners Court, for addressing this issue. My neighborhood has been plagued by this quite frequently. There's an establishment at 5400 Woodway Drive that has been raided at least 4 times in the past 4 years. And I have a couple things that I would like to see done, and I think the Commissioners Court might be able to help do that. First, I would ask that the Commissioners Court work with the state representatives and state senators to reduce the regulated number of machines that constitute a game room from 5 down to 2. As someone mentioned last month in testimony, there's nothing that stops someone from putting 5 machines in 5 different slots in a neighborhood strip mall and running them all and thereby skirting the regulations. It's one thing if you're a little gas station that has old ladies who don't want to drive to Shreveport that want to play penny slots for store credit. It's another to be running a thinly veiled illegal casino. The next would be that all of the regulations for permitting and the associated costs there would cover this so that there's no extra expense at the taxpayer's dollar. I'm not normally a fan of government regulations, but I feel it's important that if we're having to create new positions with the sheriff's office or with the county somewhere, that citizens who are not participating in utilizing these game rooms should not have to foot the cost of that. And then I would also request that in relation to the grandfathering of locations, the site at 5400 Woodway Drive is within 1,000 feet of a church and 1,000 feet of the Wedgwood branch of the public library, and backs up immediately to a residence. They are currently not operating there, but they have come and gone multiple times in the past, and I would like to see that these are removed from areas where there is normal transportation and community gathering places.
Russell, one of the questions that I would have with regards to the grandfathering, I know you said something about April 1st, the procedures would go into place, but it seems like we're discussing this now, so it's kind of like, okay, we're giving a free license.
No, sir.
Okay, so talk about it.
Sure. Sorry, pardon me 1 second. Within the regulations, within the grandfathering and exemption section, based on a court decision that was made a few weeks ago, the date of whenever the establishment had to have been established with owner set up and be operating in that specific location, is tied to a specific location, was October 15th, 2019. And so for the 5400 Wedgwood Way, if they're not currently operating, they would not be eligible for the exemption.
Okay.
Because you have to have been operating in that said location under the same name with the same owners as of October 15th, 2019 in order to get the exemption.
Be continuously, so
continuous operations.
At any point in time they
change, it's done. That exemption falls.
They change ownership or the licensing holder? Or,
yeah,
okay.
License and ownership, locations, you can't be moving these around. It's tied to a specific location, a specific owner or owners in order to get the grandfather exemption.
And I also agree very, very much with your suggestion. I don't understand why, if something's wrong, just a little bit of it makes it any better. So if 5 machines or over 5 machines is wrong, 1 machine ought to be just as wrong. But that's an issue you're going to have to take up with the state legislature because they're the ones that said 5 and below we can't regulate. So there's a lot of comparisons that I'd give, but none of them will I give at this point in time.
Well,
Chris, your request was that we work with our legislative delegation to get that number lowered from 5 to 2. We will do that.
Excellent. Thanks, sir. And
but
thank you.
I would really suggest that you also work with your legislators to get it not from 5 to 2, but from 5 to 0.
As a proponent of more government regulation is normally a bad thing, if it's 2 machines, and if you have grandma who wants to go to Shreveport but can't make it, and they're playing for store credit, that's very different than the operations that have been rated and that are the problem of this, that are a normally organized crime running multiple machines and other illegal operations through it. So
I understand what you're saying. My mother-in-law lives in Wichita Falls and will not move down here because she can drive 10 miles across the border and play in Oklahoma. And it's amazing when we take her up there on a Sunday afternoon, the number of buses that are up there from Fort Worth.
Yeah. And how old is she?
She's only 94.
well, thank you for your time. Thank you for working to make Tarrant County a better place.
Thank you for being here.
Chris.
I'm probably gonna hear about that.
Yep, you probably will.
She's 94. We drive her when we go up there, but that's the only time she gets on the freeway.
Oh.
And if they ever figure out how to put a road across the Red River without it having to be a freeway,
She'll be driving herself.
she drives herself anyway. Next is Barney Holland, the third.
I saw the second, I think.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Barney Holland. My address is 5301 Sun Valley Drive, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm here on behalf of Empire Texas Equities that owns 51 commercial buildings in Tarrant County, and also the Secretary for Public Improvement District number 15 in Southeast Fort Worth. I'm here speaking to support regulating game rooms. First, I'd like to just thank all of you for getting us to this point. Particularly, I wanted to thank Commissioner Brooks. I'm told that you, sir, led the charge. Thank you. I know the burden of this isn't something the county wanted, but here we are. The choice has fallen to you. It's time to put law and order first and Hell's Half Acre behind us. If any of you have any doubts, I wanted to ask each of you to picture what it's like going to work or living near one of these establishments. I want you to picture month after month the ambulances, the police cars, the yellow tape, another assault, another overdose, another armed robbery, another homicide. You call Fort Worth police and they tell you, I know what's going on, but my captain says I'm not allowed near them. It's something about a lawsuit. I'm sorry. You call code enforcement and are told, we are under an injunction. I can take a report in case it ever gets lifted. I'm sorry. With all due respect, we're tired of I'm sorry. It doesn't explain these violent crimes to our employees. I'm sorry it doesn't explain them to our families. I hope today you make the right decision for law and order in Tarrant County. One comment I wanted to make just regarding the City of Arlington and their existing regulation. My understanding is Fort Worth has existing regulation, and it's been challenged in the courts, and it's currently not being enforced. It would seem that Arlington, by joining the county and the state, it would serve to reinforce their existing regulation. Lastly, as a landlord, I just have one suggestion to add. Due to the nature of their businesses, game rooms rarely buy a building. They rent. As a landlord offering rental space, I receive calls from prospective operators. I can assure you they never tell the truth about what they actually intend to do. Best case, you'll get a vague use like entertainment or event space. Usually they'll just lie to you about what they want the space for. If the recorded owner of that property could be notified the moment an application is made, or even be required to sign the application, I think that would do a great deal in notifying the landlords of what these spaces are really being used for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Barney.
It's a good idea.
So, Russell?
I would think that'd be part of the law.
I'm assuming that in that situation, there's a management company who's getting a commission on renting the space and may or may not talk to the actual owner about what he's about to put into that space. So what's the, can we do that?
I think that's something we can definitely.
So are you simply saying that we notify the owner of the facility of where the application is been submitted for? Is that what we're saying?
Make part of the application have a sign off by the landlord.
By the actual owner of the property, acknowledging that. Of course, they're going to say, well, this guy's my agent, so he can
And that's pretty normal.
explore that possibility of how we might.
They do have to supply lease documents with the application, but we can continue to think about that.
We just simply need to look at
Maybe it would be something along the fact that the landlord has to acknowledge that they're aware of the fact that there's going to be a game room operated within the space.
Mm-hmm.
Let us do some research on that, Judge.
We need some research on that.
Last is Frederick Long, Fort Worth Police. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your service.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm here on behalf of the Fort Worth Police Department to thank you for supporting this. We are 100% for this initiative, for these regulations. Also with me is Deputy Chief Ty Hadsel. I wanted to kind of speak on a little bit of different wavelength. I'm not an attorney. I am not one that writes these things. I am the guy that gets to enforce them. I am the guy that is the lieutenant over the vice unit for the city of Fort Worth. We are the ones that go in and out of these game rooms all day long, and I kind of wanted to paint a little picture. Right now in the city of Fort Worth, we have over 200 known game rooms, including convenience stores. Right now, my estimates, not counting the ones that we don't know that we know about, somewhere around 300 to 350 game rooms in the city of Fort Worth. I am tasked to do something about this problem. This year, we've had 6 murders related to game rooms. 4 of them inside game rooms. Some of them involving robberies. Down on West Side, down off of Benbrook, south of the traffic circle, robbery, guy goes in, head shoots the clerk, robs the game room, and leaves. These are taking place. As Mr. Bennett spoke about, I have been in the game rooms. I have seen the mattresses in the back where they're running prostitutes. The Yellow Store on East Lancaster, for example. 5400 Woodway, the gentleman that spoke on that. My unit hit that 2 months ago. We put 4 employees in jail for engaging in organized crime, promotion of gambling. We seized over 30 machine motherboards. We seized cash. We seized a gun. We seized an ounce of methamphetamines off of one of the people who was there. They had a security officer who was wanding people coming in, who had a gun, who was armed, protecting an illegal business. So this is kind of what we see. Oh, and in addition, they had a magnetic door lock as well to keep us out as we do it. Going back to Timms versus Indiana, previously we were doing civil seizures. We were doing a pretty good job with civil seizures with seizing a lot of high volume of machines, hitting them in the pocketbook. With Timms versus Indiana, the legal opinion of our city is, and a lot of agencies around the country, is that we are no longer able to do civil seizures, which leads us to criminal investigations. Those criminal investigations that we run are frequently done by undercover officers. I send my people into these places, places where we're having robberies, places where we're having murders, places where we're having thefts, drugs, prostitution. My guys are willing to go in. My guys also, most of the time, are going in unarmed. They have no badge, they have no gun, they have nothing but a lifeline to us. They go in unarmed because these places have armed security guards with metal detectors and wands. They have magnetic doors. They have what they call man-trap cages, which is you walk in and you're immediately in a cage, and you cannot get one way or the other. You get locked in until they clear who you are. They require memberships. They require tokens. They require key fobs. They require registrations. They require somebody to vouch for you to be a member. They require specific racial or racial I guess, identity to be able to go into some of these.
They reserve the right to discriminate.
Yes, they do. Exactly. Yes, sir. That has been our problem in 2 priority complaints from city councils lately, is we did not have the right personnel to get into the rooms. As far as the gentleman said a minute ago, I just wanted to add some stuff. This year, my unit has run over 32 search warrants. City of Fort Worth is not ignoring this problem. We're losing. This problem is not something that can be addressed by running search warrants and seizing machines. We ran a search warrant recently on East Lancaster at the Wicked Zone, and there were 3 game rooms in this one complex, this one business park. We hit one, we hit the Wicked Zone, and we were getting probable cause to hit the 3rd. And as we're sitting there undercover, while our UCs are in that place, they're loading games into the back of Wicked Zone 2 days after we hit it. It's the price of doing business. They're making anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 a week in these places. We hit them, we take the motherboards, we take the machines, no matter what we take, it's the price of doing business. We go in, we write tickets, it's the price of doing business. Code enforcement does a great job. They go in there, they do inspections, they write a fistful of tickets, it's the price of doing business. These regulations that you're talking about give us another arm to address this. It will help us. It will help us address them in an overt fashion to where uniformed officers can go into these places, and we don't have to have SWAT teams run in. I don't have to send my guys undercover into every game room in order to enforce this. We have seized over $270,000 in cash so far this year. We've made 40 arrests, most of them felony for engaging in organized crime. And we have seized multiple weapons. Wicked Zone, again, when I talk about that, 4 guns out of that. Those are places where people get hurt. One of our intents on enforcing this is to attack the owners. The owners that we know knowingly are renting these places to these game rooms. Every chance we have, landlords, owners, we notify them, hey, you have an illegal establishment here. The problem is the owners are a lot of times out of town. They're shells, they're LLCs. We don't have any way to identify the actual person or there are people in the middle that are facilitating all of this that the owner is keeping, hey, I have plausible deniability. So getting to them is one thing. Proving their intent and their knowledge is another. And that is a hard thing to do in enforcement in your organized crime cases. That requires wiretaps, that requires trackers, that requires surveillance operations. Just to get into 5400 Woodway, and I'll be quick and get out of here. Just to get into 5400 Woodway, you have undercover officers on 3 occasions. You have a cover team in undercover capacity with 3 to 4 officers to cover them, to watch them. You have a rescue team that is a tactical team that's 4 to 6 officers that monitors them while they're inside there, just in case somebody decides, hey, I think I'll rob this place today. While the undercover officers are in there, they have reports, paperwork, reports of investigation, case files that they put together, just to be able to write a search warrant to say, okay, now we're going in. Once we get in, we may have 30 people inside the place. We arrest the employees that we can. We arrest the people with drugs. We arrest the people with felony warrants like robbery warrants, theft warrants, all sorts of violent crime, aggravated assault. And then we write tickets to everybody else who's gambling in the place that our undercover officers see. To do all of that paperwork is another 7 hours worth of paperwork. And now we can actually finish the report and file a case. These regulations are crucial. I appreciate the fact that you're doing it. Thank you for supporting our city. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for supporting my guys who are having to go into these places and citizens. I appreciate your time and thank you for hearing me. Any questions you have for me, I'm glad to answer. So,
thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So to a point of concern that the city of Arlington brought up about defining the residential neighborhood. And I understand the concern of us not wanting to have ourselves challenged by overstepping the law. But I would like for us to evaluate that and see if there's any room on there for us to better define that, especially given the additional testimony and even to the lieutenant's point. I think to the best degree that we can help to not regulate, but where we have a greater ability to know where these businesses would be operated, and who owns the business, and to the extent that what I'm hearing is there being obviously a huge concern for residential neighborhood owners. I mean, in addition to commercial property business owners, I want to know that we have done everything that we can to further define that.
Okay. With the addition of the comprehensive plan,
I'm sorry.
with the addition of a comprehensive plan as being part of discussions planned, and as residential neighborhood as part of that function, I mean, I think that we are, in a quite detailed way, being able to look at where that residential neighborhood is, and even the structures that are there, since it's lot line to lot line. I mean, I think the regulations, as we've got them at this point, give especially with the additions from the city of Arlington, I think it gives us an excellent point in order to make sure that we're getting those distances where they need to be.
What we're coming down to is whether or not a residential neighborhood versus a residential structure. And again, it's going to go back to what makes a neighborhood versus a structure. If I've got is an apartment complex a residential structure?
Sure is.
Is this something that could be defined within the interlocal agreement?
And that's highly likely that we can, looking at the various different cities, we could, as we're developing the interlocal agreements, if there's some specificity or some needing to clarify language for that specific city to make sure everything is in line with what they need, I think that's something we can develop out with those ILAs, because we have a great deal of flexibility with the ILAs as we develop those out. So if we need to make it, to right size it to the city, I think that's something that the ILA would be an excellent place to finalize these aspects and tailor them to the specific needs of the cities as they come forward.
Commissioner, from a legal perspective, I see no problem. I agree with Russell. That's one way to do it. I see no problem with the expanding definition. I don't think that the Section 234 of the local government code I don't think it binds our hands as far as defining that. I'm fine with that also from a legal perspective. So however the court kind of wants to address it, if we want to kind of do that definition and kind of define what residential structure is from a legal perspective.
Well, Simon, we're already evaluating notice to the property owner, right, as an amendment to the ordinance, or is that just a part of the application?
That is, we would like to do some more work on that, but that is probably something that can be handled through the application process. And as the application, as it would come in.
I don't believe that necessarily has to be in the ordinance itself. It's something we can just simply include within the application.
Want to give the city of Arlington to make any additional comments if you have any at this time.
I don't have anything additional to add, but just appreciate the time that you all have spent on this and the time that the audience has spent on this, and particularly the staff that have helped us. And we appreciate you all considering the additional items that we brought up. Thank you very much.
So I believe that we are in agreement, though, with a request from the city of Arlington on the 313 issue that as it relates to bingo and things such as that I believe staff is going to be okay with removing that. The court has already said that they wanted to do that. So I think that's something that the city of Arlington has requested, and we've dealt with that now.
So as I I think, summarize this. The first request with regards to us, basically saying we're going to do it, we have to have an interlocal agreement or we don't have any authority. We're not supportive of that. We are supportive of removal of Section 3.13, and we feel like that that Section 3.9B1, where you talk about neighborhood versus a structure, may be something that we can do in the interlocal agreement, and that the notification of the landlord of the fact that this location is going to be used as a game room or is going to have gaming equipment in it.
I guess my concern, as the lieutenant brought up, it's very difficult to find the owners.
But if their agent, in the course of the application, acknowledges that there is a game room in there, I would almost like, and I don't know that we can regulate if it's less than 5 or 5 or less.
We can not 6 and above.
Okay, then on 6 and above, that landlord's got to know that their property is at risk. Because if it gets seized for illegal activity, then now all of a sudden that landlord's got something to lose. And again, my hope is that could come down to 0. Granny can catch her flight to bus to Oklahoma.
Your Honor, in light of the various revisions to the ordinance that we have discussed and either accepted or rejected, this has been a long process. I think we have finally reached a place where we are prepared to go forward. And with that understanding, I would move approval of the game room regulations with full knowledge that there may be additional tweaks as we go forward.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Other discussion?
Again, I just want to thank everyone who has attended court to engage on this issue, whether that was by emails or phone calls, of course, attending court to give verbal testimony. I know that this is a significant issue throughout the county. I think we have heard about it most from the city of Fort Worth, but it is a countywide issue. And while I am especially sensitive to the concerns of the city of Arlington, I trust that we have done everything that we can to come to as close to middle ground as possible, with still upholding our responsibility to follow the law. So while I trust that we will continue to work closely with Arlington in establishing an interlocal agreement that serves the Arlington community to the highest standard possible, I again just want to thank everybody for their engagement in this issue and hope that we will continue these conversations with the same amount of vigor so that we ultimately come up with something that serves the entire county.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sheriff Weber, would you have anything to say about this?
Yes, sir. Just to add what you've already heard is that certainly we believe that game rooms are where organized crime meets street crimes, and we've had our share of shootings and stabbings and murders and all the other evils that have happened out in the county, and we estimate that there are several hundred game rooms across the county and that kind of thing. And criminally, we have asserted ourselves, and we've gone after these folks with about 75 different raids on those things, very much like you heard the lieutenant address from Fort Worth with the same methodology. And last year we seized $160,000 that was forfeited to the county general fund, not to the sheriff's office, by the way, but to the county fund, and we're going to continue to do that. And as far as the number of machines, is that while in this administrative directive, that's effective there, but it does not affect the criminal aspect of it. We can still enforce if there's one machine doing one thing wrong, and we will do that as complaints come in and as we can do that. And we certainly support this directive, and we believe in the rule of law, and we believe in interdicting crime where we can, and we know that we've got a few things to work out. This is a complicated ordinance, and what do we need to do and what staffing needs to do to stand it up and make sure that we're ready to go on April 1. So we'll be back before you with those issues, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Anybody,
Sheriff.
anyone else? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who came out and again spoke today, and I want to again thank everybody for all the work that they did in getting us finally to this point. So thank y'all.
I say me too.
Ms. Tidwell? I thought she was doing that. Can't see you when you hide in that corner.
Morning. Good morning. We have one item we'll ask the court to consider this morning, and that's to approve the release of the $8,836,000 approximately of collateral as outlined in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Criminal District Attorney's Office.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have one item for your approval. We request approval of an agreement with Texas Star Center to host a training for the Tarrant County Police Chiefs for a total cost of $1,013.60.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the source of those funds is?
Forfeiture funds.
Thank you.
Ms. Glenn.
Good morning.
Morning.
I made it all the way.
You did.
I'd like to ask the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And Judge, if I could take just a minute or two to update the Commissioners Court on the status of annual enrollment for employees. So yesterday was the last day for our actives to enroll for their benefit coverages for next year. So I hope that everyone took advantage of that opportunity and did that. Remember, annual enrollment is the one time of the year that all employees can make changes for the following year. Throughout the year, after we're done with annual enrollment, the other times the changes can be made are when employees have what are called qualifying events, like the birth of a child or marriage, that kind of thing. So this is a very critical time of the year. Overall, I would say that enrollment for actives was very busy, but it is every year. It went smoothly. Active employees received their packets timely, plenty of time to make their elections for next year. What benefit staff is going to be working on over the next couple of weeks, of course, are the collection of related documents like our spousal affidavit forms, opt-out forms, that kind of thing. So we're going to be busy at work doing that for the next few weeks. And then finally, the eligibility data will be sent to PEBC, and Commissioner Allen, if you may recall that PEBC, the Public Employees Benefit Cooperative, is our co-op. Purchasing co-op. Tarrant, Dallas, Denton, the Tollway, and Parker County are members of PEBC. And so they handle many services for us. One such service is the distribution of all of our individual eligibility data to vendors, and that will happen probably early December so that all employees can have their new cards before 1/1/20. So that's where we are with actives. I wish I had a similar story to tell with regard to retirees, but I don't. Our annual enrollment has not gone smoothly with our retirees. I know that some of you, maybe all of you, have gotten calls from retirees who have every right to be upset. So the plan, I thought, was pretty straightforward. Retirees were to receive their packets along the same timeline that actives should have or did receive packets. We were told by PEPC after many, many calls and follow-up calls that retiree packets were put in the mail on November 1st. The earliest report that we received from any of our retirees about the receipt of packets was November 9th, so that was a full 8 days later. And we did have our feelers out. We had several retirees, of course, that we maintain relationships with and prompted them, let us know when you get your packet, let us know when you get your packet. The earliest calls that we got back or text messages, again, was Saturday, November 9th. So that's this past Saturday. So some retirees received packets on Saturday. Of course, Monday, yesterday, was a federal holiday, so there was no mail delivery. So it's our hope that the balance of our retirees will receive their packets today. And so staff may have gotten reports. I don't know.
So what kind of extension are we giving?
So, yes, sir. So with our retirees, and this is the case every year, so this year will be no different. Retirees are really on their own sort of timeline.
Okay.
And so we're working with, of course, the retirees. Some have come in because they're just so accustomed. They know that this is the time of the year. And they walked in and said, "Where's my packet? I know it's time to enroll." And so we've enrolled many retirees. I think Joyce estimates that we've enrolled about a third of our retirees. We have 1,255 retirees who have health insurance coverage. So we have a long way to go. Again, many of our retirees are not happy, and I'm with them. I'm not happy either. The judge, as well as Commissioner Fickus, were present at our last board meeting where we had, I would say, some pretty passionate discussion about the importance of getting these packets out timely, and that didn't happen. And so we're just as upset as the retirees, and again, they have every right to be upset. So what we do, Commissioner Brooks, is that every year we receive, once we've started the enrollment process, all of the documents that we receive from retirees, we go basically through a checklist, and any retiree that we have not heard from, we do personal outreach to every retiree. So we don't want any retiree to fall through the cracks. We don't have retirees who fall through the cracks. And so we will do what we've done every year, and that is to make sure that every retiree that we have not heard from, that we personally make outreach to try and reach those individuals to make sure that we know what their options, their choices are for 2020.
Well, the one complaint that I received was from a retiree who said that that he didn't receive his packet in enough time, and then when he made multiple phone calls that it took a while for someone to respond to him, and then he was told that an extension would not be granted. So to make sure that he, provided his response during the time, the enrollment period, and he no longer drives, so he had a family member to then bring him downtown to turn it in.
Well, that's not accurate. Again, what I've just described with retiree enrollment is what we've done in all of the years that I've been here. And once upon a time, I managed retiree enrollment. So what I'm telling you is the way that it's done, and so I'll make sure that staff is clear about what our process is. We do have a couple new staff members, but we work with our retirees. We are very clear and have had clear direction from Commissioner's Court in all the years that I've been here that we handhold our retirees, and so that will be no different this year. I do want to take just a minute to thank my benefits staff. This time is a really crazy time for them. They do an exceptional job servicing our actives and our retirees. Joyce Kirk, of course, this effort is led by her. Amber Duckworth is the assistant benefits manager, and I was there yesterday, in and out. We're bringing in food because they don't even have time to leave their desk. So I'm standing outside of their offices. They hang up, the phone rings again, they pick it up, they hang up, the phone rings again. So that's just what life is like during benefits enrollment, and they do a really, really good job servicing our actives, as well as our retirees.
So I want to make sure that I understand. So you said retirees don't have a deadline?
Well, we communicate a deadline in their documentation, just like we do actives, but in practice, we
There are
understand that it's
exceptions
going to
there.
take more effort. For primarily one of the reasons that you addressed, some retirees don't drive anymore, and so they're reliant upon others to get them here. And there's no requirement that they come here. We can certainly service them over the phone. Many of them like coming, and we like to see them come back, and they want to visit and visit with other retirees. So there's no requirement that retirees come back, but many of them do.
Well, and the retiree that I communicated with said, okay, well, it's all done now, so
Yeah.
it's okay, but just for concerns and
Sure.
considerations
Future.
for the future. But-
Absolutely.
So then, I want to make sure that I understand too.
Mhm.
Is there an issue with? There was still an issue of when the enrollment packets were sent out to retirees, right?
Yes, and we
Okay.
still have not gotten, in my opinion, an acceptable answer about why that happened.
Sure.
I
And
can
so,
tell you that on at least the last two meetings, Tina acted more like me.
it was not pretty.
Yeah, it was not pretty. She was absolutely adamant about how critical it was that the retirees' stuff go out on time, come hell or high water. Well, we had hell and high water.
Is this a PEBC
Well,
staff?
I don't know that we've figured that out. I don't think she's figured that out yet, because if she had, whoever it was wouldn't be breathing.
Correct.
We'll find out who it was.
We will find out. And so staff, and I guess the one last comment that I would make is that we've begun to have some internal discussions about whether Tarrant County should bring back that function internal. Because again, we can manage, right, when the packets get mailed, we mail them, we know that they've been mailed, as opposed to relying on another agency to do that for us. Again, we've done that with PEBC for well over a decade, and we've only had issues the last couple of years. And so we're just, we realize that we probably need to do something a little bit different with our retirees.
What is most disturbing about what you just said is that somebody told you these things were mailed out on November the 4th.
Yes, sir.
And obviously they weren't.
There's no way if the earliest delivery was November 8th.
Okay.
So, but we'll talk about it, and it won't be pretty again, but we'll talk about it at our next board meeting.
We await your recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Vinny? Well, if anything's lived through this last day,
Well, hopefully not. So hopefully things are quiet. But just a reminder, flu season's
and
upon
Mr.
us.
Phillips, I can see, is trying to kill everything in this building by getting us nice and cold.
I know.
Got a blanket over here.
Well, good morning, everybody.
morning.
We have one item for your consideration today. It's a request for approval to submit a grant application to National Association of County and City Health Officials for the Medical Reserve Corps' Operational Readiness Award.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. Mr. Mitchell?
Come on down. You got a coaching vacancy.
Well, I felt sorry for him till it came out he had a $10 million payout. But I'm over that. Our basketball team, one game in the season, is undefeated.
And the Tigers did all right this week.
It was a great game.
Where's Amber when I need her? Our one Alabama person I don't see in the courtroom today. She's probably hiding. Go.
We have 6 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2019-195, RFP for Service Organization Controls, SSAE number 18 audit for the tax office. Our recommendation be to award to Whitley Penn the amount of $33,000. If this is approved, we're also seeking contract approval from the court.
I will abstain from this vote, even though I have not I've not had any ownership in Whitley Penn since 2015. But I still don't feel like it's appropriate for me to
move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 3-4, 1 abstention.
Item number 2 is also a bid award recommendation for RFP 2019-206. It's an RFP for Appian Development for Laboratory Information Management System for the Medical Examiner's Office. Recommendation would be to award to GXP Partners the amount of $1,254,600. Again, if this item is approved, we're seeking contract approval from the court.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3, also a bid award recommendation for RFP 2019-216. This is an RFP for Risk Assessment Solution for Criminal Courts Administration. Recommendation be to award to Noble Software Group per the terms of the contract. Again, we're seeking contract approval from the court.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Bless you.
Item number 4, also a bid award recommendation for bid 2019-263. This is our annual contract for disposable paper and plastic products. Recommendation be to award a per enterprise basis, discount for non-listed items, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors by section and item as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Move approval.
Well, I think we had a move approval, but then we had a bless you as opposed to a second. So now you're second, right?
Consider the bless you a second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Y'all send your invoices for your doctors to Mr. Phillips.
Item number 5, also a bid award recommendation for bid 2020-004. This is our annual contract for inmate hygiene supplies for the Sheriff's Office. Recommendation would be toward a per enterprise basis, according to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors meeting all specifications.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item, number 6, an item in regards to bid 2019-083. This is an annual contract for windshield and auto glass repair. This was originally brought to Commissioner Court February 26, 2019, approved under Court Order 129681. On 10/22/19, we received notice that Fort Worth Auto Glass are closing their door for business. With that in mind, we'd like to award this to the next bidder in line, Abstract Auto Glass.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I need to go back.
Wait a minute, Jack.
I have a question about item 3, and this may be for Greg. Just, I wanted to understand with this risk assessment solution, where does this fit in the broader context of the work that Criminal Courts Administration is doing? Hello.
Commissioners, Commissioner Allen, that is the platform that we put our risk assessments on. Currently, it has the SRA. Part of that contract is to allow us to transition to the PSA, and so we'll be able to handle that. And we are actually having a bid meeting this week on transitioning to bring the consultant in so that we can actually use the PSA.
The PSA is the Arnold.
It's the Arnold tool. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
I do, and it is with the city of Crowley for various streets, and I would move approval of item, what is it, 8 or 9?
8M1, A and B.
That.
And I'll second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one item, and this concerns the City of North Richland Hills TIF zone number 3. Ms. South is here to address the court at this time.
really
Good
get you
morning.
very often.
Today we have representatives from the city of North Richland Hills here to present to Commissioners Court a proposal. It's for the establishment of a 52-acre tax increment reinvestment zone. It's in an area west of the intersection of Northeast Loop 820, State Highway 121, 183, south of State Highway 26, and north of Glenview Boulevard. This is the site where North Hills Mall was previously located. As you'll hear in more detail when the city makes a presentation, in concurrence with the establishment of the TERS, a City Point Public Improvement District is also being established to fund the public infrastructure improvements. The PID bond proceeds will be used to reimburse the developer for installation of infrastructure, with total costs for the projects in the zone estimated at $12,141,008. As proposed, funds captured from the TERS will be allocated to offset the financing issued by the PID for the public infrastructure costs. We have several representatives from the city of North Richland Hills here today, and Mayor Trevino is going to start off the presentation.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Mayor.
And y'all had a busy schedule.
I apologize for not bringing you forward sooner.
That's all right. We're good. Well, greetings, and thank you for letting us be here to talk to you. Today, I'm representing the city of North Richland Hills, as I do pretty regularly, and I'm here to request Tarrant County's participation in this newly created tax increment reinvestment zone number 3. Now, let me make sure I get the right button. I did. That's good. Roy, you know that this location for this reinvestment zone is the area surrounding the present North Richland Hills City Hall, now known as City Point, which is about 15 minutes northeast of downtown Fort Worth. The TIF zone includes 52 acres just south of Northeast Loop 820 and west of Airport Freeway at the site of the former North Hills Mall. Gary, you know the North Hills Mall opened in 1979, and it thrived as a regional shopping center for several decades. However, with competition and changes that we continue to see in shopping patterns, customers and tenants moved elsewhere, and the mall eventually closed in 2004. The owner of the malls, a limited partnership out of California, was unsuccessful in revitalizing the property, and in 2007, the city basically forced demolition. Following that demolition, the city channeled its efforts to recruit new retailers to the site. But over time, it was determined that retail could not be the sole and primary use due to the proximity of Northeast Mall in Hearst, as well as the growth in the online shopping. Devin, in 2012, with the North Tarrant Express widening project affecting some of our city facilities, our residents approved a bond referendum to consolidate and move City Hall, public safety, and municipal court services onto a portion of the former mall property. It was actually a city bond committee who recommended this location for our new City Hall, as they felt it could help spur redevelopment of the site, which had yet to redevelop on its own. Our new municipal complex opened in 2016 on the southeast corner of the property. Then in 2017, we charged a strategic plan committee with making recommendations for updating the city's comprehensive land use plan, including recommendations for economic growth and revitalization over the next 10 years. As part of the strategic plan process, the land use of the remaining former mall property was reclassified from retail to urban village. Roy, the urban land village land use category to us promotes sustainable, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use development that provides the opportunity for many uses to coexist within a more compact area. In late 2018, the city was approached by a developer, Centurion American, about a mixed-use development for the property. After a collaborative and public process, our council approved the rezoning of the 52-acre property into an urban village plan development. We called it City Point. The plan includes 364 single-family homes, 400 multifamily units, and 70,000 square feet of commercial space, including an upscale hotel. The single-family homes will consist of a mix of building types and building designs. Glenn, the commercial component will include 70,000 square feet of restaurants and retail spaces located along City Point Drive. The multifamily will be 4 stories with a projected development of 400 units. The development is expected to begin construction early next year and take 5 to 6 years to complete. Commissioners, Judge, upon the final build-out, City Point is conservatively projected to have taxable property value of $188 million. That's a $180 million incremental increase from today's property value. The tax increment financing district that we are requesting Tarrant County's participation in, along with the public improvement district, is key to making this redevelopment successful. With the TIF and the PID, we are able to attract substantial commercial uses that have eluded the property in the past. We're also able to require a higher quality project in a shorter time frame. This is an important project for North Richland Hills and for Tarrant County, as it will not only redevelop 52 acres that have sat vacant for the past 15 years, but we believe it will also trigger redevelopment and reinvestment and revitalization for a lot of mature property along its TIF's borders, specifically up and down Boulevard 26 and Glenview. You can see by the slide that we've assembled a solid working team of professionals to properly implement and administer the effort. At this time, I'd like to turn over the financial details to Mary Petty, partner of P3. And thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Would you explain how the TIF and the PID will work together to accomplish this project?
It's going to be a very interesting, actually, the way I understand it, the TIF pays the PID a portion of it, but I think it's better if Mary went through the entire details on it. But we've had a number of discussions on it, and I wouldn't do it justice in explaining it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Oscar. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Judge,
morning,
Commissioners, Mary Petty, P3 Works, 350 Roof Snow, Suite 200, Keller, Texas. We are the city's PID administrator. We actually work for cities and counties across the state of Texas, specifically creating PIDs. Most recently, you have PIDs overlaid with a TERS being a popular development tool for various reasons. I will walk through that financial model because those are great questions. The participation that the city is entering into on the TIF is a 20-year TIF, 25% of their increment. It's limited to only $4.2 million, and it pays for the public infrastructure components, roads, water, sewer, drainage, landscaping, and soft costs associated with that. And the next slide will show you the requests from the county. It's also the 20-year period, 25% of the increment, but it's limited to $1.7 million from the county. Again, that is to pay for the same roads, water, sewer, drainage, landscaping, and soft costs. Both of those mean that there are economic benefits to the city and to the county in excess of $17 million combined. Now, the question you asked, Commissioner Brooks, related to the PID The PID is a specific geographic area in the city, and the cities are allowed to create that in order to finance public infrastructure to incentivize development to occur that would not normally occur. And there is a clause in the statute that talks about the but-for. And as the mayor spoke earlier, they can get higher standards. They can also do some unique things related to the PID. So the city is able to issue bonds that are only secured by the revenues generated from assessments on that property. So not COs and not GOs, not the taxes and not the TIF dollars we're talking about, but specific assessments that are placed on the property. So those PID bonds are secured by the land itself. The city has an additional interest in paying down a portion of those PID bonds, so the property owners would be responsible to pay the assessment, whether it's a homeowner or a commercial owner, in order to keep it most competitive and not to price them out of the market. The TIF money would be used to reduce that increment to the property owner. So if I was a homeowner, I'd pay my property taxes. The next year, a portion of my property taxes that the city would allocate through the TIF would be transferred to the trustee of the PID bonds and to pay down my portion of my parcel on my PID assessment. So the TIF dollars do not go to the developer. The TIF dollars are used to reduce the PID assessment on the property owners.
Interesting.
And so this is a mechanism that has been through the AG's office numerous times, both in the last several years and as well as this year, and we have seen it be very successful. So
I think it's the first time we've seen it in Tarrant County.
I think you may be right.
Did we not do one of these out in Lake Country?
Lake Country is a PID.
Did we?
Yep.
A PID?
It's a PID, but I don't think there's a TIF associated with it.
Or one of those subdivisions out there?
This one is different because in the past we've had a TIF with a PID supporting it, because if the TIF increment wasn't generated, then it would fall back on the PID. This is different because the PID comes first and the TIF is providing a little bit of support to buy down that that debt. So it's in a different order than before.
But we've had PIDs.
We've had PIDs. Euless is one of them. So there's been PIDs done. And in the Tarrant County itself, we also established a PID for the resort on Eagle Mountain Lake.
Same developer?
Yes, same developer.
Yeah. Okay.
Did I answer all your questions or anything else you wanted to?
Yes, ma'am, I'm good so far.
Okay, thank you. And so the relationship again between the TIF and the PID would be that the PID bonds would pay for the improvements. The assessments would be levied in such a manner that they would be able to pay for 100% of those bonds. But as the TIF increment is generated and the taxes are paid, a portion of those taxes would be transferred to the trustee to reduce that debt against those property owners in the future.
So if we collect more as a result of the values going up, is all of that put against that debt?
No, sir. No, sir. This is where it's unique. You're capped at a $1.7 million request from the city. And so one of the responsibilities my firm has is over the time, once you hit that 1.7, we're responsible for interfacing with the city's financial advisor to make sure that we've reached the max of the TIF, so we either need to escrow the dollars and terminate the TIF, and the escrow dollars will continue to pay off the portion, or we call the bonds early. And that is something that's disclosed to the PID bondholders, because if it is wildly successful and it does generate more, we're not here to ask for the TIF from either the county or the city to pay more than the request before you today.
So we as normal would put a ceiling on what we're putting in?
Correct.
1.7.
Correct.
Okay.
Sir.
It's got to be one of our smaller TIFs.
Yes.
Again, those PID bonds are used to reimburse the developer. In this instance, they will actually be used for the construction of the infrastructure. And then we talked about how the property owners pay for that PID debt on an annual basis. Now, this PID's debt will be structured in two different ways. It will have a 20-year component and a 30-year component. The TIF is the 20-year TIF is tied to those 20-year bonds. So if you hear that there are 30-year bonds on this project, that is true, but the TIF is not only for a duration of 20 years. And so just a summary, the sources of funds simply from the TIF would be the 1.7 from the county that's being requested, 4.2 from the city. That covers a $3.2 million 20-year bond, principal and interest components.
So what's the other 2.7 going to?
The interest over the 20-year term. So the principal amount of the bond is, the par amount is 3.2.
Okay.
And so this is just a sample of some of the expected values to the city, to the county, to the ISD, to the hospital district, and to the college. I'm happy to answer any questions.
College on board?
The college is not participating in the TIF, and neither is the hospital. At this time, that was not a request by the city. And so the dollars that would be generated by the new increment would flow to those entities.
So they're very much on board.
Has the city given their final approval yet?
Yes, sir. In September, the city created the TIF, and then in October, they approved the final plan. Before the final plan was approved, city staff sat down with the county staff to talk about the request, and we were instructed that the final plan needed to go ahead and be approved before we came before you all. We would request that the county participation agreement be considered early in December. It's anticipated the last steps related to the PID bonded transaction will occur on December 9th at the city council meeting.
And our last meeting for the month is the 11th.
10th, I believe. The 10th. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
So Mary pretty much said everything I was going to say. So to sum it up, if there are no more questions, Lisa and I will be working on a participation agreement to bring back for your approval.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Well done, Megan.
Thank y'all. We appreciate y'all coming out. Is that it?
Your Honor, that's all we have this morning.
We have one audience of participation. I know you thought I'd forgotten. I've misplaced it, but I know we have it. Edward Brown. Edward Brown.
That's me. Edward Brown, 4000 Hewland Place, apartment 129, Fort Worth, 76107. Judge Glenn Whitley, commissioners, I'm here to describe documented obstruction of justice by members of the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office. Members of the DA, at the request of a local, wealthy, and well-connected family, placed legal barriers between myself and my 19-month-old daughter, who has been hidden from me since birth. Those efforts were undertaken to disrupt an ongoing family court suit that seeks to unite my daughter with her paternal family. After a relative of this daughter failed to have charges of harassment brought on me, she used family connections to gain direct access to the DA's office. After meeting with an intake attorney 10 times, the relative was promised that multiple criminal charges would be brought on me once Fort PD was forced to comply. Gifts and letters to my child and pleadings to be allowed to see my daughter were used as evidence by this assistant district attorney. What followed was a documented case of obstruction of justice. The relative, with the help of members of Tarrant County District Attorney's Office, began strong-arming Fort PD to comply with the wishes of this private family. A June 2019 Fort PD email obtained through open records request describes the obstruction of justice. Quote, "The victim is a legal aid of some sort and the niece of a high-profile defense attorney. She has used her DA connections to try and supersede and dictate how the detective works her case. She has used countless connections in the PD and DA's office to strong-arm myself, the detective, and attempt to have the case reassigned. I briefed our liaison in regards to the victim's attempts to circumvent the system," end quote. That's from a Fort PD sergeant overseeing my case, by the way. I based my understanding of the situation on documents and first-hand conversations with a confidential source who directly observed these incidents. Given the political and DA connections this private family has, and the fact that the DA is willing to do favors for them, I take it as a given that efforts will be made by individuals in positions of power to cover up this instance of wrongdoing by the DA's office. Indeed, my initial sworn complaint with the City of Fort Worth was met with a coordinated effort to cover up the actions of these members. Members of the 4th PD's Office of Internal Affairs repeatedly issued false and misleading statements in response to my sworn complaint. One high-ranking lieutenant even went so far as to state that he had read every email related to my case and found no evidence of interference by the DA. I have notified the mayor and my city council member about the attempted cover-up. I've also met with 4th PD's Criminal Investigation Unit about the documented incidents of obstruction of justice. I have filed complaints with the Texas Bar Association and provided that group with names of lawyers who committed obstructions of justice. I am seeking a meeting with the mayor and my city council member. I am requesting a meeting with you, Judge Whitley. On a daily basis, I am updating prominent local journalists, community leaders, and elected officials about the illegal acts committed by members of the DA's office. When county-level prosecutors use their position to obstruct a police investigation and to do favors for a wealthy and well-connected family, those actions undermine the credibility of our county's criminal justice system. As I stated 2 weeks ago, our legal system should not favor the well-connected. I presented you all with documented evidence of wrongdoing. As my elected representatives, I ask that these incidents are investigated and that the findings are shared with the appropriate law enforcement officials. That's it.
Thank you. Again, as we told you a couple of weeks ago, because it's not an agenda item, have you had a conversation?
I have.
Yes, we have.
I've yet to meet with anyone.
That is not a comment on the non-agenda item. The question is, how do we go about investigating these allegations? We can't get the DA's office to do it.
I'm not sure.
How do we do it?
I've been advised to contact the FBI.
I think we can't discuss it, first place. But what I'm going to say at this point, since it's now been, you've come before us twice, get it on the agenda. Or tell us what we have to work something out.
I would like that.
Work something out so that
we have some additional information as it relates to that, because we have communicated, because you've sent me the documents and everything. I've had various discussions, but I'm not going to bring those out here. I'll need to confer once again with the DA's office to see if we can bring this into close so you can be briefed on it. And if you'd like to have that discussion then in an open session, we'll be more than happy to agendize it.
Well, if we can't be briefed and closed, then we need to be briefed and open.
Understand. I do believe, though, that this briefing is a qualified exception that can be heard and closed.
Okay. And can he be present and closed when we have the briefing?
No, sir.
Okay.
This is not a state of
What
Texas issue.
That's what we're going to find out when we get briefed and closed. See you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. I'm trusting you guys. Thank you.
We will now recess our open meeting to proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section 551, 1071, 072, 074, 076, and 087.
We're ready.
Having returned from our closed session, we will now address the following matter. We need to receive and file the golf tournament.
Move to receive and file GK's winning the lower flight.
The Hogan flight.
Hogan flight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file.
But there was a 4-way tie, and they had to win it with the pencil and the scorecard.
I can whip that scorecard with a
I
pencil.
know you can. I know you can.
And just please note that the only reason we're receiving and filing this is because GK's team won the Hogan flag. Please,
You wanted it
please
on
vote.
the record.
Motion passes unanimously. There being no further business, please adjourn.